Hey everybody, Armand here from Chi Skills, and it's meditation basics again, part 2. Where to start? What are you going to do? We're going to talk about that today. So let's begin. Okay, so let's take a look at where to begin with meditation. So just type in meditation into Google or YouTube and then wow, you see thousands and thousands and thousands of things. You see a lot of guided meditation. You see a lot. You see a lot, right? And so it's a jungle out there, right? So that's why I make this video, is for you to have a clear understanding that what is it that you want to achieve with your training, right? You have to make that clear. Are you looking for short-term benefit? Like, oh, I want to relax for half an hour and have someone talk to me about breathing in, breathing out, and relax? Or are you here to say, no, I want to build a skill set for myself that this relaxation and stillness becomes more like a permanent thing in my life? I think that's a huge difference, right? So I'm all about that side of the things, right? I'm all about skills. We're called Chi Skills, not for nothing, right? So that's very important. So the main skill, and you see that in a lot of the traditional practices, of course, is mindfulness training. And that is observing something without touching it. And it can be your thoughts, it can be your emotions, it can lead to things outside of yourself, right? Things that come in through the senses and everything. And you just have to learn to separate the observer from the observed. And that's important because that's going to lead to skill for living, right? Because you're going to get in situations where, you see something, you hear something, you're in a situation, you start touching it, right? You start engaging it. And when you start engaging it, you start forming all sorts of stories around it, And that becomes a creation process that leads to, well, sometimes it leads to great stuff, but most of the time you will see it will lead to, things you don't want to do. And you don't want to have in your life. It creates stickiness, right? And it's how are you conditioned? Depends, how you're sticking to things depends on how you are conditioned. But we want to see these conditioned patterns. That's why we start with mindfulness. So the thing you start with is first you start with an open position. That's a ritual we talked about in the last video. We will link at the end, right? Make sure that the spine is open and aligned. It's very important. And then you take the time to start observing your thoughts, your emotions, and physical reactions from a distance without touching. So a thought comes and it goes. You just watch it from the sideline. You don't engage with it. You have to learn to just let it pass by, right? And then there forms a gap. Well, this gap is what we're so interested in. That's very important. Same with emotions. Same with like, oh, there's my breath. I'm holding my breath. Just observe it and it will let go again. It will just go. So start with the thoughts. Start with the emotions. Observe them. Don't touch them. If you find that you're touching, which will happen if you're training this, don't be hard on yourself. Right? A huge part of the practice is this letting go of the touching. So in day-to-day living, it will appear in your life as like, oh, wow, I'm touching this. And now I have a choice. Can I let go of this? That's a true skill to have, right? So you create a sort of muscle by, it's like, oh, I engaged the thought and I release. I engaged and I release. And I engaged in this, oh, and I release. And sometimes you engage and you cannot stop it, right? You're in it. And that maybe it takes a while longer for you, like, oh, I was sticking. But the situations that happen in your life where you're sticking and you're creating all sorts of maybe nonsense around it, it all becomes shorter. It all becomes, you will stick less longer because you know, like, oh, I was holding. And that is a definite skill. People need the skill. Look around you. Open the newspaper and you see stickiness everywhere, right? We create our own suffering, right? By sticking It's like, no, it should be like this, should be like that. That's all sticking. Just observe it, you know. That's going to help you. That's going to help build skill. So you open your stretch, you open the spine, and from there you take like 20 minutes and you start observing. When you're done with the training, make note of the things that you remember that you were sticking to. It's like, oh man, I got lost. My mindfulness just disappeared. And just write that down. What was it? Do you remember? This is going to create a skill of remembering and seeing like, oh, I was sticking to that. And maybe there's something that you have to solve. And maybe it's just random Twitter in your head. Could be. It's like, oh, I have to do grocery shopping. But it can be also on deeper levels where you see, wow, I have this thought pattern that keeps reappearing and pulls me out of my mindfulness. Those are interesting because those you can transform. But that's for another video, right? So, open spine and start observing without touching. If you find yourself touching, don't worry about it. You're training here. Don't get frustrated. See yourself letting it go. And then another thing, you will find there's not thoughts all the time. There's also stillness behind it. And that's very interesting because you want to slowly shift your attention to that. It's like, whoa, there's thoughts, but there's also stillness. And this stillness is gonna accumulate by that, right? So that's how stillness will come into your life. Wow, right? So that's totally different than guided meditations where you lie in your bed and listen to someone talk, right? That's not my kind of style. I mean it for skill. What are you into, right? Okay, hope this helps. Good luck training and start there. Okay, see you in the next video. Like and subscribe if you like this one and see you later. Bye-bye.